Hi, my name is Matthew Ebert and I'm a Fletcher Pilates teacher based in San Francisco, California. And today I'm going to be talking all about the high barrel or ladder barrel. This is another favorite piece of equipment of mine that I feel really gets underutilized within our studios. For the most part, I only see people do the ballet stretches or the psoas stretch, or they go to the back and they just hang over the back edge of it in order to stretch. And that's about it really, which is a real shame because this is another piece of equipment that provides feedback for the body, and you can work fuller and bigger ranges of motion, especially with the spine. Now, when we're looking at our barrels, again, all of our barrels are closely related to each other. The major difference going to be the slope and how steep the arcs are. So this one is a big, generous arc, yes. It is also quite smooth and gradual, so we can get a fuller and bigger range of motion without it feeling like it's too steep and short, if that makes sense. There's two sections to our barrel, right here, which we refer to as the ladder, and that part which is the barrel. This make and model is by Balanced Body. It's made out of wood and leather. We have 4 rungs. The top one goes all the way across to create 2 little handles up at the top for us to gently hold. And then we measure down. So top rung is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the wooden frame goes all the way around. We have 2 handles, 1 on either side. And the barrel is movable, so we can really tailor it to the body in front of us and the piece that we want to do. And now this is a newer model, so this one has a pedal to it, and you know that the barrel is secure in place and it's not going to move. This is going to make that clicking sound, and it should make that sound. That means it's not going to move anywhere. On the older models, you're going to have 4 little screws, so you unscrew it to the left, pull the barrel in and out, and tighten it to the right. With the older models, make sure that you tighten it all the way. Something that I've noticed from my personal experience as well is that if you don't tighten all 4 of them properly, your barrel will move in and out and away from you, and you don't want that to happen. On the newer model, we have some numbers at the back, and you're able to tell how far away the barrel is in relationship to your ladder. Over time, you'll be able to gauge that amount of distance if you have an older model or you get accustomed to the body in front of you. And now with these barrels, they don't necessarily come with a little platform. So I don't know if you can see my feet in here, but I'm not standing on anything. It's kind of like a little well, so to speak. And so I'm really touching the hardwood floor of the studio. And so as we build into bigger ranges of motion, what we can do is elevate our surface. So I'm going to take 2 moon boxes. These are also both by Balanced Body. I'm going to neatly fit them in to create a little platform. And this will help elevate the body. And then over time, as we work at our barrels, we'll be able to deepen our range of motion and get less of a step up. So we also have another one. Excuse me. We just have one of these. And as you can see, it's half the amount of distance. It's not as high up. I like having both of these because it feels a little bit more secure and it neatly fits completely within the well. And now I'm going to start with the psoas stretch. So this is a very common, very popular that I see from everybody. You want to start with your barrel further out for this one, and then over time bring the barrel a little bit closer in. So I'm at 12 on the new barrel. From here, I'm going to stand. Hopefully, can you still see me in the frame? Good, yes, okay. So from here, I'm going to stand on my little platform. I'm going to place my closest leg to you, at the barrel. So, a couple of things before we begin. You want to square off your shoulders and hips to the ladder, to whatever facing you are. And then stack the shoulders, the ribcage over the hips over your standing foot, and align the knees together. So I kind of see people kind of start here or here. You want the knees together. Working leg, the one that's bent, that knee is pointing down to the floor. Keep your pubic bone in line with the sacrum. We're going to take the bend of the standing leg and come all the way up. And again, bend and stand. Stay vertical through the body. There's going to be a slight shift back to the barrel, and you feel a stretch through the front of the hip and the thigh as you come back and down, and then up to center. And I'm going to do 2 more like this. 2. And last one. And up. And then switch legs, switch sides. Bend and stand. Four more. Last one. Placing the foot. And now for this next section, we're going to go into some ballet stretches. I'm going to talk about it first. So, a couple of things before we begin. This whole series is normally done at a ballet bar in a ballet studio. So that being said, for the most part, our ballet bars have 2 heights. And they usually should come around belly button-ish height. So depending on how tall you are, you're either going to use the bottom bar or the top bar. And that's just to hold on to. So when we place the leg, it's kind of the same thing as well. It depends on how long your legs are. And that's where you're going to be placing your foot. Usually for a lot of people, the top bar is too much. So we place it onto the second bar, which is approximately belly button-ish height. And that's it's a mounted bar. You can do it as well with a freestanding bar as well. Now looking at the legs, again, this is important. So since it's approximately belly button-ish height, it's a little bit higher than 90. How do we know? So from here, I'm just going to point 1 foot. I consider this 0 because my foot is still touching the floor. So I still have a point of contact with the floor, and I'm going to be looking at my hip socket. So if I lift it up slightly to a hover, that's about 10 degrees-ish. And I'm looking at it from the hip height, creating a parallel line with the floor. Then we go 20, 25, 35, 45, 60, 70, 80. About here is 90 on me. Anything higher than that is going to be above 90. And for a lot of people, just to get into that position to place it, the foot onto the barrel is very, very difficult, even with our elevation. So as you can see on this one, for myself, I'm just going to show you with my close leg, right? It's about 90 for me in this position. This is a good deep stretch through the back of the leg when we start. So if you notice for yourself that this is too much, what you can do as an alternative is lessen the angle at the hip so you can place your foot onto, let's say, the reformer, and do your stretches at the reformer the same way that we would do it on the high barrel or at the ballet bar. And then as time goes on and you have more flexibility within the legs, we deepen the angle at the hip. Now, I have this flexibility, so I'm going to take this out so that you can see my body a little bit more. And then also talk about the difference. There isn't that much of a difference other than the angle at the hip. So from here, I'm gonna stand in the middle of this well. Hold on, I have to figure out which way I'm facing you for. Right leg is gonna be first. Okay, so I'm gonna place my right leg onto the barrel. Stand in the middle. My standing leg is slightly turned out. It's more about the working leg. We have a couple different options for this one. This can either be completely parallel or you can have it a slight turnout like we do in dance. I like a true parallel because it gets the full back of the leg versus the turnout, which only gets a portion of the hamstring. And you can have the foot either pointed or flexed. With the foot flexed, you're gonna feel more of the back of the body stretching, so more hamstring stretch with it flexed. All right, so from here, I'm gonna square my torso to the barrel. Again, stacking the shoulders, rib cage, hips, over my standing leg and foot. So in this case, it's my left. I'm gonna reach my arms out to a T position. And then from here, I'm gonna start with a hinge. Hinge forward and come up. Rotate the pelvis forward and back. Keep the spine long as you hinge and center the body. And one more like this. And come back to center. I'm just gonna move through it. I'm not gonna do too many reps, just so I can get through everything. And then from here, I'm gonna stretch forward, reach to my foot. And then come all the way back up to center. And again, around the spine, forward, hover over your thigh. Lengthen up to center. Two more like this. This is kind of similar to our spine stretch from the mat. Last one like this. Forward to stand. I'm gonna add the two together. From here, I'm gonna point my foot, lengthen up to the hinge. Flex the foot and round back over. And again, point and lengthen the body. Flex and round. And like a full breath in each direction. Up the diagonal. Over the leg. One more like this. Up the diagonal. And round. This time lengthening up the diagonal, lifting up to center. Place your hands onto the top rung. All right, from here we're gonna pivot and turn to face you. Readjust however we need. Here is the hard part with this one. So as you can see, to the side, my leg is a little bit higher than my hip socket. My hip socket is down here, right? So this is where I say this is a little difficult for some people. And we want a straight line in line with the hip to the side of the room. Ooh. All right, and same thing here, pointed or flexed. With the foot flexed, you're gonna feel more of a stretch through the back of the leg, hamstring. All right, from here, I'm gonna open there's a couple different ways we can do this. I'm gonna open my arms out wide to the side. I'm gonna, whoops, there we go. There's the ceiling. Side bend over to the leg and come up. And again, reach up and out of the waist. And center. Two more like this. Keep the lift through the underneath side. As you side bend and up. All right, now we're gonna go away from the leg. And up. And hopefully you can find the bar. And up. Kind of similar to what we do with our chairs, right? Keep the pelvis stable as you side bend. Find the rung. I like the third one. You can go to the fourth one. Just watch that your hip doesn't start to move. Yeah, as you go over and you start to turn in. Ooh, stay stable. All right, and now from here, we're gonna round forward and come up. And then same thing here. Watch that as you come forward, the pelvis doesn't go backwards. Your sits bones are still parallel to the floor. You have one leg that's a little bit higher. And last one like this. And let's add the pattern together. We're gonna start away from the leg. Round forward, side bend, and lift. To the ladder, forward, to the leg, and up. And you can take whatever whatever breath pattern you want for this. I'm going to take one breath. One big generous breath. Press the arms down. From here, I'm going to place my hands back onto the top rung. Readjust my costume before I do this. And then from here, I'm going to rotate the hips. Let's do that again. And come back to center. And again, just the pelvis. Forward. And back. Forward. And back. This should feel good. Last one. Forward to stay. And then you're going to turn the bottom leg out. Whoops. Square everything to your ladder. So you're in this, what we call arabesque position, and you're not trying to sink down into the floor, into the bar. You're using the hands to help keep the lift of the spine. Stretch the hip open. It should be in line with your hip to the back. I say that for myself. Now let's walk the hands down. 2, 3, down to 4. Walk up to the top. Down, 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 together. Up, 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 together. Try to minimize the shift in weight as you walk the hands up and down. Last one, coming all the way down to stay, holding this position, and now really hover the spine over the bar. Try to lift that back leg up and lower down. And again, lift, lower, lift, lower. One more. Down, walking the hands back, up to the top. And one thing that I like to do here, I like to take a bend of the knee and stretch. Still maintain the lift and the length through the spine as you bend and stand. One more. Now you're going to rotate the pelvis, come all the way back to the front, pull the leg off, ooh, and we go to the other side. Oh, one leg is jello. So you can take this in sections and do a portion of it. I like to stay on one side, and it really also works the standing leg as well. And now we got to even ourselves out. I'm going to go to the other side. All right, here we go. Squaring the shoulders and the hips to the front. And I believe I start with flex. Here we go. Hinge. And up. Last one. Rounding over. And if you really want at the very end, you can try to pull the body in to that leg and deepen the stretch in the hamstring. All right, from here, point and lengthen. Round over. To the hinge. Flex and round. Coming up to center, and then we turn to the side. Aligning the leg with the hip, arms open out to that sweep position, side bend to the leg, and up. Stretch the inner thigh. Now away. Coming all the way up. Rounding forward. And come up. I'm going to have my arms in the scoop position. 2 more. 1 more. Adding the pattern, starting away from the leg, round forward, over the leg, up. Lift and turn. Readjusting my costume again. All right, square to the ladder. There we go. I'm just gonna take a breath here to find a little bit more length through the body. Walk the hands down, 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 up, 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 up. I'm taking a double breath. You can do whatever breath pattern suits you. Last one. Coming over to stay. Lift, lower. 1 more. Walking up. Bend and stand. Foot is cramping in the back. Ooh. 2 more. 1 more. All the way back. Slide the leg in. Oh, and dismount. So each portion of that gets a different part of the leg. We start forward to stretch the back of the leg or hamstring. We turn sideways, which gets the inner thigh. And then we turn away in this back position, also known as arabesque. And that helps to open the front of the hip, as well as extend the spine. The pelvis does have to rotate over your standing leg in order to get into that position. Think of it squaring off to the front. Don't worry, it won't exactly. Due to the height of the leg, the pelvis has to rotate and open out slightly in order to accommodate that height. All right, and now, let's add on to this one. So, those 2 stretches are the ones that normally get done. And I'm gonna show you the, I hate to say it like this, half-ass version of the stretch. So, usually I see people, they come in and they just do this. Oh. And that's it, that's all they do. And I think that by going backwards, that's helping opening the spine. Well, let's actually look how to do that properly. So from here, we're actually going to pull the barrel in a little bit closer. We want to be arm distance away. We're going to take away the legs. So from here, I'm going to pull my barrel in to about 7 or 8. I'm going to stand at the back of my barrel, place my sacrum onto the barrel, and now just slide back. Legs push you back so that you find the handles. Yeah, and you want to be able to rest your head down in this position. This is important. Again, in terms of support through the body, I am resting my head and my hips on the barrel, and I'm going to be holding on tightly to the bar. I'm not going to let the bar go. Thumbs wrap around, and then from here, we try to shoot the legs out in line with the hips. This is usually enough for most bodies. Just to have to be able to hold this position and breathe in this position is a lot already. And now there are 1 or 2 things that we can do to this. One of them is a shoulder shrug. So from here, I'm going to pull my shoulders down the back and release. And again, pull down, release. Legs stay long as I pull and release. 1 more like this. to get out of it, I'm going to place my feet to the floor, release my hands, round forward. Whoops, my barrel is sliding. Come all the way over. Place your hands down. Really stretch the spine. If you want, you can come all the way down into this nice little ball position. And then roll up to center. I think I should have said that earlier. Make sure that your barrels aren't going to move away from you. So if it means putting a little bit of a mat underneath, please do so. You don't want this to be moving away from you. So in terms of that piece, just holding on to the bar and being able to be fully supported by the barrel is a lot. It is a full extension. And the first time that I did it, I found it difficult to breathe, and I didn't know how to breathe or where to breathe, right? And this is where we can really use that frontal breathing and the sides of the ribs, because the back of the ribs are on the barrel and it feels like it's too much. It is a really intense stretch through the top part of your spine. So we're really opening the chest and the shoulders in that position. Ooh, it should feel so good and so nice once you're able to get all the way over there and be able to breathe in that position. And then the fun part about that one is we take away one of the arms and then we add a forward reach on the diagonal, which is kind of cool. And we'll do that at another time. Wink. All right. And now from here, I'm going to do another side bend. And this is one of my preferred side bends for a number of reasons. One, you still have the support of the barrel. Since you are elevated, this doesn't really affect the hips that much. So this one that I'm going to be doing is kind of similar to when we do it on our Clara barrel. And you have one hip on the lip, one hip in the crevice, and then you go over and you come up. Because the leg is in that parallel position, I find it's not accessible to most bodies in the beginning, but this one is. This is also kind of similar to the box work on your reformer. So, proportion is going to be a little bit of a factor for this one, just because of the feet. We're going to be in this tandem stance, so it's almost like you're on a tightrope. You have one foot in front of the other. Depending on how big your feet are, you may be able to have the feet flat like this, or you have to lift the toes up and get the feet all the way together, which is what I will be doing and demonstrating. Maybe you can see it, probably not. The other version is they're going to be slightly askewed, and you want the heels to be up against the bottom part of the ladder here, down at the bottom. And those are our two options. The other thing that I see, I'm just going to get a ball just to show you. The other one that I see that is quite popular is the ball. And you do the same thing on this big bouncy ball. Now, the major difference with these two is the fact that, again, the ball is bouncy. It is not a stable surface. So it's going to, number one, roll away from you. It's also going to flatten as well. So that's something to be aware of while you're doing your side bends. And we do this kind of oblique crunching action. Everyone loves placing the feet right like this. And there we go, crunch, crunch. And you can kind of see with the ball, right? It's flattening versus a barrel, which is going to maintain its shape the entire time. I'm just going to put this away. And now, here we go. I'm going to start facing you. There's a couple different arms that we can look at. Oh, one thing I forgot, the feet. For a little bit more pelvic stability, you can have the top leg in front. If you want to challenge the organization, you have the top leg and back. It's the same position though, if that makes sense. So for a little bit more pelvic stability, I'm going to have my top leg in front. There we go. Feet all the way up against the bottom. My hip is going to be touching the barrel. I have the barrel all the way out, as you can see, and I just want my hip to touch. A couple different arms. I'm gonna do 2 of each for everything. So, first arm that I love is this T position. And remember, we're not resting here on our barrels, but we're trying to stay lifted. And now from here, inside arm is going to reach over, top arm brings us up. So we roll the ribs over, we peel the ribs up. Now hands behind the head, same thing here. Over the barrel, up to the hip. 1, more like this. Now it's a bigger and fuller range now. We're gonna try with the arms overhead. Keeping the arms in line with the ears the entire time. Now we're really challenging the organization with the upper body as we come up. And now I'm gonna press my arms down. So, we have 3 different options for that one. I like the first option to begin with, just so that you can really feel that reach all the way over, and you can use the arms there to help peel the spine and the rib cage as we go over sideways to the barrel. With the hands behind the head, it's nice to kind of focus on the spine, and if you're passing through that diagonal line, with the arms up overhead, it really does challenge the shoulder girdle and that oppositional energy as you reach over. You don't want the shoulders to come up to the ears. Same thing with the arms. We don't want the arms to move and the spine stays stable. We're trying to move and bend the spine. All right, switch sides. Now you're gonna get to see my better side. All right, from here, top leg is forward. Place the hip. And I'm gonna do 2 of each again. Here we go. Full breath over. Full breath up. There you have it. So, this is kind of similar to a rib roll. We're rolling the ribs over and back the same way that we do full extension. We're looking at it now sideways in our side bend, right? And the first time that I teach this, I usually have the arms somewhere else, usually in a T position. I love to start there. Sometimes I do behind the head. Usually what I do for that oppositional energy, and so that the arms aren't moving independent from one another, let alone the spine, is I like to take a little dowel. This one just fits from the Wunda chair. I take this, and then I just use this for my arms. And I try to keep the frame, the head and the frame of my arms as I go over and up. And you can really feel if you're engaging the back while you're doing your side bends in this position. And then you'll also notice if one arm starts to touch your head, because it shouldn't. We should maintain this even kind of V-ish. It's a narrow V-Y position as we side bend and come up. All right, and now looking at some more spinal mechanics, we're going to go into kind of like the box work. So from here, I'm going to pull my barrel in. We want to be leg distance or femur distance away in this position. So we're really measuring from the back of the barrel, the length of your femur. You want to be wedged in here. You don't want to be able to move and slide in this position. So I'm going to have this kind of close by, my little baton. We're gonna place the feet in prehensile at the bottom rung. A couple things before we begin in this position. It's a similar position to a couple of other places. We do this at the Cadillac, where we're hovering the hips over the heels and we're vertical in our start position. And we're using the smile lines, the bikini bottom, the jock line, whatever we're calling this, to keep us lifted. We're not sitting down and resting into this position. And it's gonna be the same thing for the feet as well. In our prehensile position, we're holding onto the bar. We're not letting the heels sink down into the floor, but it's helping us keep the body up and lifted. Now, you can do this without anything and just place your knees up against the rungs. Why suffer needlessly? So from here, I'm gonna place a little pad up against the rungs. Then I'm gonna place my feet. And I'm going to slide down into the crevice. But there is no crevice. All right. And as you can see here, my knees are higher than my hips. I'm reaching my tailbone down into the floor. I'm not going to move in this position. And I'm trying not to lose the engagement through the legs. And as you can see for this one, the challenge is going to be maintaining this organization, even though you can't feel that feedback from the bottom because we removed the bottom, so to speak. All right, so keeping the lift through the lower part of the body, arms come out into this T position. Here's a rotation and center. And again, rotate the chest and center. I'm going to do one more on each side. Last one like this. Now I'm going to add some hinges. Forward, center, back, center. Keeping the spine long as I rotate the pelvis. Forward and back. One more like this. And add the two together. This should feel like the box work. Rotate, hinge, center, lift. Again, rotate, hinge, center, lift. One more on each side. Last one. And now going into our full extension, I'm going to reach my arms forward, round forward into the frame of the arms, and place my hands behind the head. I'm going to roll back, and look up to the ceiling. So stay holding this position. Now, if you want, you can watch me for this, or you can just move through it. And now from here, you're going to be able to tell if your hips have shifted and if you're fully back. So number one, the first thing that you'll feel is that the hips are trying to reach you back further over the barrel. And you really want to continue to point the tailbone down to the floor, keeping the connection to the low belly. Back of the neck is long, head is heavy. So here's my head in this position. I'm still holding on to my lemon and my peach. My nose is itchy. And then the way that you can tell that you're looking up to the ceiling is if you have the elbows narrow, they're shining up to the ceiling, right? So if you're a little bit further forward, you know how much back you need to go. And then from here, we're going to use the back to press into the barrel to peel the spine over the legs. Whoops, tailbone down, tailbone down. There we go. And again, as you pull back from the base of the spine. Keep the connection to the low belly as you roll back. And then sink the sternum into the navel. Press and peel. Take as many breaths as you need to roll the spine back and curl up and over. One more like this. And now here here's the fun part. We're gonna try to come all the way back. So this is the goal. From here, I'm gonna reach my arms in line with my ears and touch the barrel. Ah. This should feel exactly like our Clara barrel, right? And we're really trying to get the back of the body to touch all of that arc. Oh, and the arms are in this nice wide V position. And if you want to challenge it, you can narrow it a little bit more. And then from here, to get out of it, without placing the hands behind the head, we lift the arms up, fingertips to the ceiling. Curl the chin to the chest, into the frame of the arms. And then you take the crown of the head forward and stretch over. And let's do that again. Let's do that with the arms. Roll back as you come back. Arms shift back. They stay in line with the chest. Then we reach back to touch. Arms lift. Curl the chin. Then the chest. Ooh, for 2 more like this, we're just gonna move through it. Take as many breaths as you need. One more like this. I'm going to pulse. Ta-da. And there's our full extension. The same way that we do it in the barrel, we can do it here on our high barrel. The major difference between those two is one, that this arc is a little bit bigger, it's a little wider, it's not as steep as the Clara barrel. It is a little bit more steep than that styrofoam Pilates arc that you see floating around everywhere. That tends to be the one that gets used the most. But again, it's not a full extension on that one because it starts to taper out instead of going down, and you have that U bend over. And the other thing that you're going to notice is because there's no crevice in this one, it's just your pelvis floating, you're going to be able to feel where you're initiating from. So I really love that one for those that really struggle keeping the hips stable in that position, because we want to be able to isolate the pelvis from the spine. So when we go backwards, right, the hips aren't curling us backwards. It's the spine that's moving. The hips stay anchored. Yeah. And now I have one last thing to show you. We're going to place the hips on top. There's 2 different ways we can place the hips on top. One of them is quite advanced, where we place the hips on top, but the head comes down here, and then we're holding on down here, so you're practically upside down. That's a lot. It's not a beginner piece, so I will not be doing it. All right, from here, I'm gonna place my barrel all the way out, and we're gonna swim. So, similar to our mat work, it's gonna be a little bit different than when we do it on our reformer, because again, we're lessening the amount of feedback that we have on the body. So with our barrel, we want to be able to place the hips on top of the arc and be able to balance. For everybody, that balance point is going to be a little bit different due to proportions and size. And something that I've noticed for myself as well is that the first time that I did this, even on my Clara barrel, I was a little higher up, a little closer to the top of the arc. Not so much anymore. I'm a little further back and down because my legs are a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger. So for that reason, There is a slight shimmy and an adjustment to this piece. It may feel a little finicky for that reason, because when you lift the X up, you're either going to fall forwards or backwards, and that's really going to tell you where you need to shift the body in that position. One other thing that also really helped me for the swimming is that you want to keep the connection of the rib cage into the pelvis as you lift the back line. Yeah. So usually what happens is we try to get that reach up and back, but we're sinking and collapsing somewhere within our spine. Usually it's the low back. Yeah, so we're crunching down in the low back, stomach is down to the mat, and then we're coming up. So we're trying to keep that length through the front of the body as we lift the back. Yeah, without collapsing down and doing that, basically. Okay, so actually, I lied. Before we do swimming, let's do a little bit of extension for the upper back first. Let's do baby swan. So, this is a good prep for that one. We're gonna come into a turned down position, heels together, toes apart, and a nice high releve. And you can either do this in a nice first or Pilates V. I'll leave that up to you. You can also do this parallel. In either way, you want the heels to be all the way up against the ladder. And now from here, I'm gonna place my hips in the center of the barrel. Keep the backs of the legs long. Find one long line through the body. And my arms are gonna, a couple different ways for the arms. You can have the arms behind the head. We're gonna lift the chest up and lengthen out through the crown of the head. And again, lift up, lengthen it. You can come over the barrel to this hover position. Again, make sure that you're not rushing down into the barrel, but you're thinking of an active lift, active hover. And then you can add the arms to this one. This is kind of fun. So the arms are in this wide scoop position, and it mirrors the line of the spine. So the spine goes up, palms of the hands up, hover over, palms down to the floor. And again, lift up into your extension, over the barrel. One more like this. Up, over, hands to the barrel. Push up, stand up tall. I love that I forgot to do that one. So that's a good piece. It's called baby swan, right? It's that preparation of lifting the upper back to come up and lower back down. It's very accommodating on most bodies, especially if you're trying to learn how to isolate the upper back and learn how to use the eyes to lift up and come back down. So that's the idea with the marble of roll the marble away, regather the marble as you come back down. And it's a nice long open position versus being on the floor or somewhere else where it does feel a little bit more compact. All right, now we're gonna swim. All right, so remember my spiel from earlier, inserted here. All right, we're gonna place the hands on top of the barrel, face the barrel on the back of the barrel. Whoops, sorry, there we go. We're gonna place the hips on top, hands come to the handles, and then you're gonna pull yourself to your balance position. And then from here, just separate the legs, make sure that they're parallel, and then lift the arms and legs and see where your balance is. Too far back. All right, and this is kind of where you get to know how far away you need to be. And as you can see, it's kind of finicky, right? There it is. All right. And I'm gonna start with the opposite arm and leg. Right arm, left arm. So opposite arm and leg, chest lifts with the arm and the leg. And now adding the X. Both arms with legs, lower and lengthen. And take a full breath. One more. swim, up, 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 switch, 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 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lengthen, lower all the way down, oh, place the feet, round over, droop over, oh, I did a lot of extension, I can feel it now. Oh, I'm gonna breathe in this position. One more. Roll up to center. Ooh, I had a mad dash to shore there. Ooh, I could feel my back working when I was doing that. So, swimming. It's a more intermediate to advanced piece in the mat work. I will say it is great taking it onto the high barrel for that one to find that oppositional reach without sinking and collapsing down somewhere into the floor, into the barrel. I will say doing it on the, on this barrel, doing it on the Clara barrel is a little bit more difficult than doing it here, partially because you also have the height of the handles that are the same height as your barrel, and it's not as far to come up and down. Right, so the proportions on the barrels are a little bit different, and it gets a little bit more advanced on the other barrel. And that's all I have prepared for you today. I hope you found this useful. Again, please, if you have some time, you have some downtime, go on to your barrels, really use your barrels. Don't just use them for one or two things. There's a myriad of things that we can do on it. And obviously I didn't get to everything today. There is some more advanced stuff out there, but you should do it with some more professional hands and eyes, just in case. All right, take good care.